Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tivoli Zoo. In the last episode, if you remember, we finished off this polar bear exhibit in this coastal area here. In today's episode, we're going to start working on the tropical house, which is located in the Denver Zoo just over here. So the first part of the episode is going to be building the exterior, and then after that, so there's two things. I could either kind of build the exhibits and then build the building around that, but I want to try to stay true to the size of the building in real life. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge where I'm going to build the building itself first and then work on the interior. So it'll be interesting to see if I'm able to make that work with the exhibits and the barriers and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's get into it. Okay, so I thought we'd start off first just looking at the Google Earth view of the Denver Zoo. So this whole area in here is the new coastal exhibit, and then this is the existing tropical discovery. And then down into here, all the way to here, is the new Asian Highlands exhibit, and then even up into here, I think. And then this is all going to stay. This is the Indian elephant exhibit over here. So the purpose of, again, wanting to maintain the size of this is it's going to help me determine the size of these areas over here, because it really is the final sort of border to the eastern edge of the zoo. So it'll help establish this road that comes down here, and then this road on the south side of the property. So if we take a look at it, it's a little bit hard to tell exactly what it looks like from Google Earth, but obviously it's got a couple of glass pyramids, and then this really interesting structure over here. I don't even know what you would classify that as. One thing that I am kind of realizing now that I should have done is in Planet Zoo, the way that the sun tracks is the opposite of how it is in Denver. So in Colorado, high noon is going to cast a shadow in this direction, but in the game, high noon casts a shadow in the opposite direction. So that is the reason why these glass panels face the other way, is because the sunlight throughout the day, as the sun rises over here and sets over here, is going to really fill in this area, where in the game the sunlight's coming in this direction. So a little bit of a bummer, because that definitely is going to impact how it looks on the interior, I think, but just too far gone now to start over and reverse. I could save a lot of stuff and save this as a habitat and everything, but going all the way back to the starting of this project, I should have flipped it the way that it is inside of the zoo map. But anyway, it's just one of those tiny little things that it's not a huge deal breaker, but it would have been nice if I would have thought of that before I got this far in. But anyway, I'm sure it will still look fine in the interior here. But yeah, it's definitely, you can tell right away looking at it that it's a 90s type structure. Let's see if there's not a ton of great street views in the Denver Zoo, but this will hopefully help give you a better idea. So yeah, just a very generic sort of postmodern 90s structure, and we'll do our best to capture this on the exterior. Okay, so this is the initial sort of blocking out phase and making sure that I'm getting the dimensions and the angles and all that kind of stuff done correctly, and just sort of setting in the entrances and things like that. One thing that I've noticed with this building is all of these are like cast concrete sections, so they have these little dimples where they had the casting or the framework for these cement pieces. There's like little indentations in the concrete, and obviously I can't indent these, but I felt like these little brackets sticking out here sort of gave the appearance of that texture. It's a little bit hard to tell in this light. Yeah, there you go. in that kind of light especially, I feel like, if you're not too close, looking at it from a little bit of a distance, it definitely, I think, captures the overall look of the building. So one thing that I really wanted to nail was this sandstone entry area. It's probably the most noticeable feature of the building other than the glass pyramid, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think the colors are spot on, and it looks pretty much exactly like the real life version. And then it's got this really nice glass and metal sort of canopy over this little entry area here. So since I started working on this, I've actually had the opportunity to go to the Denver Zoo. They've opened back up, and one thing that I noticed when I went there is this door is not here. So there's a double door on the exit, and then just this single door here. So I'm gonna have to do some work and fill this in. The way that this is lined out and set up is it's designed to be one way. It would be awesome if we had directional paths in Planet Zoo, but so in my version, people will be able to enter in here and go this way, or enter in this way and exit this way, and vice versa. But in real life, it's a directional exhibit. So you walk into this room here, and then you make your way around the exhibit all the way down into here, and then you exit out this way. It's really, really nice for obviously traffic flow and controlling the amount of people that are inside of the exhibits. So like I said, it won't function that way in Tivoli Zoo, but in real life, that's how it works, and that's how we're going to lay it out on the interior here. All right, so I think the exterior of the building is pretty much done now. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and especially these glass pyramids. I was a little bit unsure about how to make these things. Obviously we have the in-game glass pieces, but the real life version of this pyramid, these panels are more square, and but these modern, these modern glass pieces have these metal pieces there that are more rectangular in shape. So instead of trying to make it exactly how it is in real life, I decided to not fight the game like that and just use these modern glass pieces because they're thinner than these standalone glasses, and it just cuts down on piece count too. And I know the interior of this building is going to have a ton of foliage and a ton of like rocks and things like that. So this was sort of a good compromise in making this thing a reality. So this wasn't too difficult to do. I'll show you. I've got I just created like a little template basically. So I created the pieces that I knew I was going to need, and then from here it's pretty easy to just assemble it. And I used the gutter pieces, which are probably the most versatile piece in the game. So I used these as sort of the steel structure, and then just these painted beams for the bulkier structure as it goes up the sides of the pyramid. But if you start with something like this, it makes it really easy to, I got to start here. These are the bottom pieces because they've got more edges. And then from there, do another one. From there, it's really easy just to stack them up and move from there. So then this one. And then what I did was, once I had all of them in place, I just basically had one section and copied it around 4 times. And then you go back in and use as many of those beams as you need to as you go up the side. So once I made that little template, both of these pyramids came together really quickly. This one, however, was a bit of a challenge. I had to use some of the standalone glass pieces, which if you look too closely, it doesn't look all that great or clean, but it's the only way to get this look and actually have have glass be here. So if you look closely, it's obvious, but from a distance, it looks fine. It just looks like glass everywhere. So now we're jumping into some of the exhibits inside of the tropical house, and in the Denver Zoo, this is a crocodile exhibit, I believe. Obviously there aren't crocodiles in the game, and I felt like the alligators were a little bit too big for this space, so I went with the gharials instead. And even they don't have enough room according to the game. They're way under where they should be for swimming and land and all that, but this is pretty true to size inside of the Denver Zoo. So this is, like I said, it's supposed to be the crocodile exhibit. For us, it's gharials, and then in here will be Komodo dragons. And then we've got our service area for the staff. Now, in real life, I believe it's all back in here, but just limited on size and trying to make these exhibits somewhat navigable for the animals and for the staff too. Because if I make this any smaller, what happens is I can't get any of the like food enrichment in there. I can't get any of the these elements in there. The barriers won't allow me to, and then it also won't allow the keepers to walk in and out of this door over here. So again, always having to compromise and just find solutions to the problems that the game presents, and still trying to make it as realistic as possible. So yeah, then coming over here. So the way that the Tropical Discovery works, like I said, it's a directional exhibit. So the idea is that it's sort of walking you through the movement of water through a rainforest or through a tropical area. So you start in sort of this mountainous area as you walk in to the exhibit, and they've got some things in this tank here that are kind of at elevation in real life, and then as you work your way through, you go through a bat cave, and then into more of like the forest area of the tropics, and then you end all the way at the coast of the tropics, or coastal areas, where water travels away from the mountains and then into the forest and then out to the coast. And then once you go through the coastal area, you go into tropical reefs. And then from the tropical reefs, you come out and it's the Komodo dragons and the crocodiles. So, and then this area here, this middle area is like a rotating exhibit. So they can have different, different species of things brought in from other zoos, or have special exhibits set up that way. Making some good progress now. This is finally starting to feel like a real exhibit a little bit. This gives you an idea of sort of the direction that the rest of this is going to go in terms of foliage, and these are supposed to be like informational signs where each one of these would represent a species that's inside of that particular exhibit, or one species, and then like a bunch of fun facts and tidbits about the animal. And this is just everyone's favorite thing in the game, an implied exhibit. There will be quite a few of these. I'm going to use some of the exhibits that are in the game. They're just so massive, it's going to be hard to use a ton of them. I'll probably use a couple though, just to make sure that the in-game peeps actually go and look at some of these glass windows here. This plant wall is courtesy of Mike Sheets. He was kind enough to let me steal the one he made for his St. Reginald Zoo with Masked Bandit. So thank you, Mike, for that. And then the other thing that I did was I've actually done some work in his Planet Botanic series. So I went to, if you remember, if those of you who are familiar with it, it's an amazing series. If you're not, I'm sure everyone who's subscribed to me already is aware of Mike Sheets. But if not, you should check out Planet Botanic. And in that, he made this giant sort of terrarium. And so I've just been kind of looking at the way he uses certain plants and how he layers things and all of that to try to get some inspiration for sort of a tropical look, as well as just utilizing the tropical plants that are in game, as well as just images and things like that from Google. So I've been kind of looking at that and pulling plants and ideas from there, and then that's kind of what's led to this, along with the video that I was able to take walking around this exhibit in real life. So as we make our way a little bit further into the exhibit, you have another implied habitat there. Same thing with this in here. This is supposed to be a bat cave, which in real life, it's incredible. It's really well done. It's super dark when you come in here. It's like almost nighttime. So that's one thing that is kind of a bummer about the game, is there's no way to sort of block the light as it's coming in here, and I'll make sure it's all lit up and stuff so that I can turn it to nighttime and it'll look like an actual cave. But it's one of the cooler elements of the tropical discovery, I think. I think bats are fascinating. When I lived in Austin, they have the world's largest, or maybe not the world's, but in North America, they have the largest urban bat population. There's like 2 million bats that live under one of the bridges in the city, and they're just really, really interesting creatures, I think. So I wish that there was actual bats in the game. I would totally use an exhibit space for this, but sadly it just is there for looks. So as we make our way a little bit further in here, I've got 2 exhibits that are pretty much set in stone that they're going to be there. This isn't exactly how the layout works in the real tropical discovery. There's a couple more tanks, fish tanks here, but I wanted there to be something that actually draws the peeps back in this area. These are frogs inside of the real tropical discovery, so I put some of the tree frogs in here just to try to stay true to that. And then as we make our way around, so yeah, they're in this corner right here. It's more tanks that are very similar to this, which looks great. But again, I want there to be as many actual exhibits that the in-game peeps will go to as possible. Then you walk into these ruins here, and again, it's more reptiles and things like that you can see inside of individual cases. You come around here, there's more ruins. I've just used these bamboo pieces as sort of place markers. And then the tropical discovery at the Denver Zoo has howler monkeys in here, but since we don't have howler monkeys in the game, I decided to go with the capuchin monkeys. And this is going to be a challenge because we're in a very tight space here, and I want them to really use the trees as much as possible. But at the same time, all of the climbable trees are pretty tall, and when I actually pull the pyramid down, there's not a ton of room to work with in terms of height of the trees. So you can see I've got this palm tree sunk way down. If I were to actually have it at its intended level, it pops out through the glass, and then even if I got it all the way close to this barrier, it still pops through, and then it becomes a challenge of actually getting them to use this without escaping and all of that. So this is going to be a pretty good puzzle to put together. And then I'm going to have to try to get some water in here as well, because I'm pretty sure that's the only way to really get them to use the treetops. And then again, limited on space. Like if I move this around, you can see there's not a ton of areas where I can put this without getting this red highlighter, because it won't work. So and same thing with this. If I move it too close, there's only a very small area where it will actually work. So yeah, this is going to be a challenge, but hopefully the end result is worth it. Alright, so making more progress. It's starting to feel really lush and really true to the real exhibit, I think. We've got animals escaping all over the place, but one thing that I did want to do is have an actual animal in this exhibit space here. So I went with the Nile monitor. I know that's not probably super accurate to the rest of the animals that would be in this exhibit or environment, but I just wanted something else that would draw the peeps back here and into the tropical house. So this was a challenge too. This guy does not have great stats in terms of what the game requires, but it is probably a fairly realistic size habitat for what they would have in real life. Back here is really the only way that I was able to make it work, but fortunately I looked at the Google Earth view and there is a little cutout here in the tropical discovery, and same with this side. And then over here I think they've got a huge cutout for a lot of the like HVAC system for the tropical house and things like that. So Thankfully, this will give me the ability to do a little more realistic backstage, and where you would actually, keep these animals off exhibit and have treatment and keeper hut and all that kind of stuff. So the other thing is finally making some progress, some major progress on this exhibit. So I was able to get this water in here, and these monkeys are going to disappear here, but if you look here without those rocks, you can see what I did. So I dug out the ground, and then obviously you have to keep these barriers a lot higher, but you can shrink them down. This is the same technique that I used to make the waterfalls in the savannah. You can drop the barriers all the way down to the water level after you've already placed the water. And what this did is it allows, if we put the rocks back and we look at the area that they can traverse, you can see now it forces them, if they want water, to go over here. And then I wanted to keep this area that was farthest away from the door pretty small, because the keepers can't get back here to clean it. And so if the area that the keepers can't reach is too large and they can't clean it, then the sanitation issue keeps popping up for the habitat. So this being smaller, they can't poop very much back here, and most of that cleaning goes on in the larger area of the habitat. So now I'm pretty happy with how they kind of run across here. They've now in real life there would be a mesh barrier all the way to the top, where they couldn't escape or jump out. So there is you're gonna have to kind of pretend that exists here. I want to keep this as glass, because that's how it is for a good portion of the exhibit in real life, instead of the mesh. But you'll just have to sort of imagine that a mesh thing goes all the way to the top in this exhibit. So the other progress made is more in this area. So you can see, again, some more reptile enclosures, and then I put in this actual exhibit, which will encase in some more of these temple pieces. And then as you come out here, again, there's going to be more reptile enclosures. And then this coming down into here is where you get into the coastal area, where the water travels from the mountaintop down into the forest, out to the coasts, and then into the reefs. So I realized after I went to the Tropical Discovery that the reason for this pop out at the top here is to access these aquariums here. So you've got a massive one in the middle, and then all along the exterior there's individual tanks as well. And so we'll see. I don't know how detailed I'll get up here. I might do like a catwalk where they could, reach the animals and things like that. We'll just see how much steam I have left in me for the next episode. But then you come in through here and you get into like a swamp exhibit right here. They have a giant snapping turtle in there, and a few other animals, and before you get into the Komodo dragon and then the gharials here. Okay, this is going to be the final update of this episode, and then I'll have to finish the second half in a part 2 of this episode. But this whole first section is done, with the exception of the backstage stuff, which I'll do in the next episode. So if we head in here, nothing really has changed here, other than you can start to see more of the foliage popping up from the other areas of this exhibit. And then as we make our way in here, everything's just kind of tidied up and finished a little bit more. The bat exhibit is all done. This is all kind of closed in here, and then I made some changes. I noticed that when I looked back at the footage of walking through this exhibit, they actually covered up the doors with similar fake texture that was around the rock area where the entrance is. So I did that there. Same thing I did over here with this bamboo, where that's exactly how it is in the Denver Zoo. They've got sort of a fake bamboo covering the door into this backstage area here. Really love this little area. It just looks kind of like a little hut, but you've got this is tree frogs in here, and then both of these are obviously implied. I thought all of these were on birth control, but I guess not. So I'll need to reduce the population there. But yeah, just being in here and looking up, it just feels like you're in the middle of a forest. I'm really happy with how lush it feels in here. You know, foliage is normally not my strong suit, but I'm really pleased with how all of this looks in here. It definitely, I think, feels like you're in the middle of a like South American forest. So yeah, making your way down into here again, more like primarily these are all snakes in the Denver Zoo. So, but there's like lizards and things like that as well. And then here, I'm pretty sure there's only two. I think these are like boas. Yeah, right there. And there should only be one more. And as we make our way around, you can see the capuchin monkeys. So again, I did try actually to swap these out for mesh, but the problem is you can't use the mesh barrier with the water, and I couldn't get the water to work based on the terrain and everything, if I changed this one to a mesh barrier, which means it would be mesh here, mesh there, and then you'd have a big hole where they could still get out. So maybe at some point in time there's like that bunting piece in the game that can be used sort of look like rope or a thin rope. I might come back in and tweak that, but honestly, I'm okay with just imagining there being some mesh up there. But yeah, let me get rid of that barrier highlight. Okay. So yeah, I love the way that the capuchin monkeys actually use the treetops and everything, and I was able to sneak another tree back in there, thankfully, so it just feels even more, I don't know. Okay, we'll after we walk through, I'll get back into the aerial view and we can take a look at this exhibit in a little more detail. But again, just lots of information signs everywhere for all the different specimens that would be in these cases. As we make our way down here, this is a fairly large fish tank, and yeah, it shows where, you know, you've got these mangrove trees that are right where the waters would be meeting the ocean, and that's the whole vibe of this section of the exhibit that they have in the Denver Zoo. So you've got a fish tank here basically, and then this actually is mud skippers. So I made this really shallow, and then you know, there's some actual land where they can rest out on. And then this is the other side of that giant box exhibit, which I tried to hide the tops of these as best I could with the foliage here. And then more glass cases. And yeah, then we come through, and this is where we get into the tropical reefs. Now, I haven't done any work inside the actual reef yet. I'm hoping that at some point, I mean, I'm going to keep working ahead, but I'm hoping at some point we get like in Oceans DLC or something, and there's a lot more of that kind of stuff in it. It would be nice to have that. I do have some ideas of how I can kind of make it look like it's a reef scene, but it's not going to be. I know Rudy Renkamel did that for one of his projects, and it's pretty convincing, you know, given everything we have in the game. So I'll probably do something similar, but fingers crossed that we actually get a DLC in the future that is, you know, has something to do with the oceans. And then, like I said, this area here is like a rotating exhibit area, which I obviously haven't done yet. And then this will be backstage that allows the keepers to access. Basically, it would allow them to access the bat cave here, as well as this habitat, and then these ones here as well. And then I tried to put this door in here so that this would be theoretically how they would get to the back sides of all of these cases, and then here they would probably not access these animals until the zoo is closed or the entire exhibit is shut down. And then you've got a backstage here, which would allow them to get back behind here and access these cases. And then again, we got the backstage for this guy over here. So I don't think I've missed too much in terms of function. I think everything logically works and functions where the keepers would actually be able to maintain all of these things. I did find a video of a guy getting a tour of the Tropical Discovery on YouTube, and they actually go into a lot of the backstage areas. So I do have some really good reference for what that kind of should look like, and I'm definitely going to try to be probably a little more detailed with the backstage area of this exhibit than I have in some of the other ones. Just because I have that source material, and plus it will add a little bit of that realism jank to the project. So I'm going to go ahead and pop out of that view. And one thing that I love is just the exterior looking in. You can see how lush it is, and you see the misters going off and everything inside. I'm just really pleased with how that looks. And just how lush this is too for these monkeys, and the fact that they have to use the trees and stuff to get to the water over there and back and forth. And then thankfully they can actually climb on the rocks, and so can the staff, so they have no problem even walking up here and using these beds if they want to. But they'll also jump off of these vines into this area, and then down into here as well. I've got some more beds that they can rest in. And then really the only place that I could get a food tray to work is right here. I really don't have any room for air here to move it in any other direction than right here. But it works out nicely because it's really close to the entrance for the keepers. And yeah, actually, so I did all these rocks. I'm just now noticing this. I did all these rocks over here, and I need to make sure that doesn't screw up the how the keepers use the habitat here. Let me look. Okay, so maybe this one. I got to take a look here. Yeah, just a little bit, I'd say. That's okay. We can fix this one over here since that's not a real exhibit. Okay. And what about this guy? Okay. Alright, now that should be okay, much better. They should have more room that way. So cool. So yeah, this will be backstage here. I'm gonna cut out these walls so that they can get into this area, or at least just put an entryway, and then you'll have a hallway here. There's gonna be all sorts of like pipes and stuff running along the ceiling. I still have to block out this so that it looks like a finished product, which now I'm seeing I'm gonna have to adjust some of the rocks. And then they come out right here into this area, and that's how they access the backstage over here, since the capuchin monkey exhibit goes right up to this wall here. And then on the outside we'll have all of the or not all of, I should say, but more HVAC work and all that kind of stuff, similar to what is over here for these exhibits, or habitats, I should say. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. In the next episode, we will finish this half of the Tropical Discovery, and then make sure we do all of that detail work to the backstage areas here, and then along the perimeter of the zoo. And then I'd like to, if I have the time, I would like to sort of section off this area and get it to the point where it's ready to transition into the Asian Highlands, which I think this kind of comes down around here. I'll have to look closer at the master plan, but I think this path kind of comes in here, and then you've got a bridge area into the Asian Highlands, and then I'll be able to continue this path along the southern part of the zoo. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys hanging with me in between episodes, and thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks.